trouble.
Oh, great, they get my good side.
Wait 1 minute. Where the hell is my?
Dinner.
Okay, I want to call the July 25th, 2018 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting to order. Will everyone please stand for a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of the meeting has been satisfied in accordance with Chapter 231 PL 1975 by advertising in the Home News Tribune, notifying the Sentinel Publishing Company and the Star Ledger, and also posting on the bulletin board and filing with the Borough Clerk. Roll call.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Here.
Mr. Emma?
Here.
Ms. Cataldo? Here. Mr. Corrigan?
Here.
Mr. Civilli?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Mr. Foley?
Here.
Mr. Kem?
Here.
Mr. Cornell?
Here.
Okay. The first application is 18-10. Diane Petrolsky, come forward, please.
Just need to swear you in, ma'am. You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And very simple, just tell the board why you're here
Why
and
I'm
what you're
here?
asking them to
Okay.
do.
I would like to, my husband and I would like to add an addition to our existing kitchen, a 10 by 22 addition, and we need a variance to do that.
And for the board, the variance is for the building lot coverage. The maximum permitted is 20%, and this will create 26%. I would just clarify for me, you're asking for the 10 by 22 addition. The architectural plans were a mistake.
Yeah,
The
that
12
was a preliminary
12 by
drawing
22.
that
So
he
so
did,
these
yes.
It's 10 by 22. If you happen to notice, the architectural plans have a 12-foot as opposed to 10 measurement. And that's the extent. All other conditions of the zoning ordinance for the property, side yard setbacks and the like are all met. The only variance is the 6% overage on the maximum building lot coverage.
Looking at the plans, my understanding is that the addition is only going to be on the first floor, correct?
Correct.
Anybody from the board have any questions in reference to this application?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, these are the questions we always ask.
Okay,
The addition will be finished in the same manner as the rest of the outside of the house?
absolutely, yes.
And this will remain a single-family home?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? I want to open this to the public. Anyone from the public wish to speak in regards to this application? Seeing no one from the public here, I make a motion to close the public portion.
Second?
It's my understanding also that when this application is if it's approved, that you would like to start as soon as possible
Yes, that would be, that
due
is
to
safe.
the contractor's restraints concerning this application.
Yes, that is right.
I make a motion that we approve this application.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Emma?
Yes.
Ms. Cataldo? Yes. Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Civilli?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, as you would discuss this with me ahead of time, since the applicant does have a deadline with their contractor, I did prepare a written resolution, which I've distributed to the board, approving the application. if the board has no questions on the written resolution, we can adopt it tonight, so that way tomorrow the applicant can get the signed copy from the board secretary and proceed with obtaining building permits.
Anyone from the board have any issues with the resolution being adopted tonight? Need a motion to approve this resolution that the board has before them?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Emma?
Yes.
Ms. Cataldo? Yes. Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Savili?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Okay, the application has been approved, the resolution has been approved. You can stop down at the office, the construction office tomorrow and start the construction.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Good night. Good night.
Take care. Good night. Mr. Chairman, while we're on the resolution portion of the agenda, the board has received the resolution for Oleg Outlisman, which was the woman who was putting the fence on the back portion of Harrison on her property.
Has everyone had an opportunity to read this resolution? It's your pleasure.
Make a motion, we approve the resolution. Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski? Oh, no, he wasn't here. Mr. Emma? Where? Last month?
No.
Okay. Ms. Cataldo? Wasn't here. I'm here, I'm batting a thousand here. Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Savili?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes. And the other resolution was for the DeVita Kidney Center. They were going in the strip mall, placing a kidney dialysis and kidney treatment center, so that memorializes those approvals.
Has everyone had the opportunity to read over the resolution concerning the kidney center?
Yes.
Yes.
I make a motion, we approve the resolution.
I second that.
Roll call?
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Savili?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Has everyone had the opportunity to read the Somerville Zoning Board of Adjustment Annual Report for 2016 and 17, the draft?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I spoke with John Barry, our planner. Unfortunately, he could not be here this evening, so he had, per our discussion and discussion with the chairman, he emailed the draft to everybody just so they could review it and asked me just to make a few comments to you. He will be here next month. We'll go through the report in detail and take action. So the the municipal land use law requires the board to issue a report summarizing all the applications they had each year. One had not been done for 2016, so John prepared one for the 2016 calendar year as well as the 2017. It's a combined report that you have in front of you. Again, it goes through and digests all of the applications. The point of it is to keep track of it and to see if there's any trends that the board may want to make a suggestion for changing something in the zoning ordinance, so there wouldn't be as many variances coming to the board. For example, I had one town years ago that had a fence height of 5 feet. As we know, they don't make fences in 5 feet as 4 or 6. So they had made a recommendation, for front yards be 4 feet and backyard 6 feet. It's just an example for things to look for, and here not saying that is what needs to get done in Sayreville. So again, John just wanted me to make those comments to you, so you can review it. He'll be here next meeting to answer detailed questions. If we're okay with the final form of the report, I will prepare a resolution of the board adopting the report, and it also gets forwarded on to the governing body as well as the planning board pursuant to the municipal land use law. That's what John asked me to advise you folks. If there's any questions, I can certainly answer them, but again, John will be here next month to go through it in detail.
Okay.
Penalty if you don't do,
There is no penalty.
for 2016.
Yeah, there is no penalty in the municipal land use law. It's just something the board is supposed to do. It's a matter of, best practices. So we'll button that up next month.
Has everyone had the opportunity to look over the previous month's minutes from June 27th?
Yes.
What's the board's pleasure in reference accepting these minutes from June 27th?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes of the last meeting?
Second.
Acceptance is made on previous month's minutes. I received a letter, the board received a letter from the attorney of the temple, Jeffrey Kanowitz, in which he's objecting to the professional fees on all the testimony from 2017 and 2018. A letter was sent to him by the board. The escrow fees are $29,225.50 that haven't been paid. We approved that resolution at our last meeting, and he has not come across with the escrow fees, so there is no work to be done on the temple until the escrow account is paid. But he's not paying it because he feels that it's unfair, and he has sent a letter to the mayor and council objecting to the fee schedule for the professionals. And he's talking about all the professionals except our attorney, Mr. Kem. He's the only one. Jay Cornell and our planner and our previous planner. So with that, Mr. Kem's going to speak to us about the rest of this letter that was given to the mayor and council.
Is that what the escrow fees are for, is to cover professional fees? Jay,
Yeah.
the engineering, things of that nature?
That's actually a good place to start, Mr. Foley. So the municipal land use law allows, and the town has adopted the ordinance that applicants submit escrow fees to pay for all the professionals in reviewing the application. Except for small things like homeowners, they pay, like the application we just heard, that's a flat fee. But any sizable application, they submit an escrow, which is an estimate of what it might cost for the application. They have the duty to replenish it and pay for all bills that are submitted for that application, whether the escrow covers it or not. This one apparently went into the red to a sizable sum. The municipal land use law has a procedure which the applicant can challenge the bills, indicating that they're basically excessive for the work that was done or needed to be done on the application. And that's what they're alleging here. They're using that provision in the municipal land use law that requires them first to send a letter to the mayor and council to try and resolve the issue. If not, then their next level is to go to the Construction Board of Appeals of the county for them to review and make a decision. So it's not, the board was copied on it, as well as myself and all the professionals, Jay, John Leoncavallo, as well as John Barry, our new planner. There's really, it's really more informational for this board. We don't have any authority as a board to address any of these issues. As the chairman indicated, we approved the application is subject to them paying their escrow fees before they get their building permits. So until they get this resolved, the project stagnates.
Does that collect everything going back all the years that this thing has been in and out of the?
It looks like, you know what, I didn't review each invoice that was in there, and maybe, I'm sure Jay's familiar with his invoices, if they challenged every one or just certain, or it's
Yeah,
just
I think
certain.
it actually goes back a couple of years. This started off with 2015, right?
Yeah,
About that time? I think this is not the first letter that we've received from the attorney concerning fees. He's written similar letters before, and as the application moved forward and there were additional fees, he's written other letters. So this is his latest, where he's objecting basically to all the professional fees, with exception to the
attorneys,
attorneys.
yeah.
Didn't they also complain about this last spring? Was it the last time? There was a complaint initially when he filed the application that he didn't feel he should even have to post escrow fees, and that's when Mr. Sack was the attorney, and there was some discussion with him about posting a lesser amount, which he was allowed to go through and do. So there's a history to posting of escrow fees and also the applicant being concerned with the amounts that we're expending.
How much was put in the account originally?
Remember?
And he exceeded it by 30?
Yeah, a little less than 30.
This has to do with the reviews of probably 3 or 4 sets of plans, attendance at a number of meetings, not necessarily just the hearings here, but there were meetings with the applicant and the attorneys to talk about the application over time. So that's all together, that's what the amount is.
So then, as this thing goes on and you get involved and the planner gets involved and the lawyer gets in, there's all time clicking against that to the escrow fee?
Well, what's going to happen, the next step in the process is the board has granted the resolution. There are conditions in that resolution, so the applicant's going to have to submit revised plans. He's going to have to go to outside agencies and get outside agency approvals. So when that comes to the borough for review, the borough's going to say, we're not going to go through and review it. You have to resolve your escrow fees before we can go through and review anything further, which means he's not going to be able to get a sign-off that he complied with all the resolution conditions, which means he's not going to be able to get any building permits.
Now, I was just curious as far as how do you designate those hourly fees towards that? It's anytime you get involved with that, you as an engineer is clicking time.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr.
yes.
Kem is
And the applicant gets copies of the
You get-
invoices.
Okay,
So
all along the way.
Day one, he's aware of what the fees are, the amount of time, and a lot of the time has been spent having meetings that the applicant was present at. So he's aware that we were at meetings with him, and he's objecting to having us bill for that.
So the 29,000 and change, that is it? That's all he owes? There's not going to be any additional fees?
No,
Or
as
there could be?
Jay indicated, there will be, because like I said, when,
Plans are coming in.
before they can build building permits, there was a bunch of conditions, right? So Jay's gonna have to make sure they're gonna submit revised plans to say, okay, we had condition 1 there to put a couple trees over here, are the trees on the plan? No. You know, also, Jay will review the outside, they have to go to the county and soil
So
conservation.
29,000 is just what they owe now?
Right,
To go forward.
Okay.
So,
Right.
to expand on what Carl said, there are going to be additional fees required to get to the point where the plans are signed off on, and then he can get building permits. Then we move into the inspection phase, where the borough is involved with inspecting the work that's done on the site. So he's going to have to post escrow fees that are used for the inspection of all the site-related improvements, which is done by our office. So
Your office does the
Correct.
inspection.
So whatever he owes now, the 29, there's going to be fees to get him to the point where we say all the conditions of this board's approval have been met. And then there's going to have to be inspection fees posted to make sure that everything on his site plan is constructed in accordance with those plans.
Is there a minimum amount for a project of this size? Like
The ordinance,
15, 25?
the ordinance has a formula that you calculate
Okay.
based upon the estimated cost, and there's a percentage that he'll have to be required to post.
Is that based on the cost of the total project?
The cost of the construction of the site improvements for the engineering-related fees.
Okay.
Now, for building permits, he's gonna have to pay fees to get his plumbing, his electrical, his subcode, all his approvals. That's handled through the Borough Construction Office. That's not an escrow fee. They have their own formulas for posting building-related fees. But the escrow fees, they'll post an amount based upon the ordinance requirements. Let's say it's $10,000, and over the course of construction, he bills $5,000, the $5,000 is reimbursed to him. So whatever's not used is given back. But
Okay.
for some reason, if it exceeds that, then he's asked to post additional fees to cover the borough expenses.
And just to clarify, Jay's describing what happens after approval, but when they first submit an application, any applicant, there's a formula in the ordinance for the escrow for this board's review and this board's professionals' review. So there's two escrows. Ours is for the application and hearing. Then afterwards, Jay just described what happens for getting building permits and those inspections. It's similar, but they're different.
And for simple variances like this one, that's just included with the application, like
Yeah. It's,
the application fee.
Yeah, there's an application fee that covers all that, because it's small. It's a, have an applicant doing, a homeowner post a separate application, you know, an escrow fee, a few $1,000s, right? Then they'd have to get reimbursed. It's a lot for homeowners. Most towns do the same thing. For the smaller ones, it's a flat fee. Anything sizable has an escrow, because you do need the input. As you do notice with homeowners like the one we heard tonight, Jay doesn't issue a report, John doesn't issue a report. They review it, they come here and they help the board through any issues and any problems. Like, for example, the site triangle with the fence of the one we heard a few months ago. You know, but again, we don't go through formal reports and things of that nature. It doesn't warrant it. It's usually small and can be handled that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My next question is this. This is going to go before the mayor and council. That's the next step.
Correct.
Now, if the mayor and council denies their appeal, you said it goes next to the county?
Yeah, the county has a construction board of appeals, which has the jurisdiction to handle this. It's very odd the way it goes here, because usually the construction board of appeals, those of us who work in that area, if you go and, let's say the plumbing official says that, you need a permit for X, Y, and Z, and you say, well, no, the regulations don't require me to get a permit for that. You don't have an agreement with, say, the plumbing official, then you appeal the plumbing official's decision, the construction board of appeals. They've also been given jurisdiction to resolve these issues as well.
Is that the last stop? Or can he appeal it past the county?
After that, he can go to court if he doesn't like what the county construction board of appeals does.
What court?
That I gotta double check, because honestly, I'm lucky enough never had one go past that. I think it goes right to Superior Court. Some boards that review things, it then goes right to the appellate division versus going to the trial level court in New Brunswick.
I think where I'm heading here is it a possibility it goes to federal court, on some kind of a situation that they might bring up?
There's a possibility he could try and phrase it that it's some kind of religious discrimination or cultural or ethnic discrimination, and that's a federal violation, and therefore go to federal court. I don't think it's really worth it for them to try and get to that level for this dollar amount, because it's a lot of time and money to deal with federal court. They have a lot of procedures to comply with. The state court's a little easier.
So this is just like a method of their operation. They turn around and say, okay, now let's challenge this, see what we can get off of that.
Yeah, it could be a strategy just to try and give everyone a
They're
haircut.
gonna stop the whole Temple thing for $29,000 and then spend more money in a federal court?
I don't think so, but
Yeah.
you never know.
So they're looking for Jay to say, you know what, I don't want my 10, give me 7.
Yeah, he's looking for someone to go, it's not worth his time and aggravation, I'll take 5% off to make it go away. I mean,
They think you're
very well could be
wily,
a
Jay.
strategy.
They think you're wily.
What's the timeframe for this? So the mayor and council, are they gonna deal with this at their next meeting in August, or?
I don't know, actually, I haven't had a chance to reach out to the town attorney, just to see what they're doing with this. And, I don't remember off the top of my head, I apologize, what the time frame is under the municipal land use law. I think it's the council has a reasonable period of time to address it. There's no firm time frame, but I didn't get a chance to look if there's any case law that interprets that.
For the board's information, the borough attorney has, and again, this is not the first time we've seen this type of letter. There's another attorney that the borough attorney referred this matter to that was handling this. So I think the same thing happened when this letter came in. It was sent to that other attorney that's reviewing the process.
Okay, so say next month, this goes before the council. If they're gonna take it to the next level, then what kind of time are we talking about? Will happen in a month, 2 months?
Like I said, I apologize, I didn't get a chance to look at what the time frame is for the council. If they have to act within 30 days, 90 days, whatever it may be. But once the time frame expires and the council hasn't acted, the law usually presumes that that's a denial, and then you can go on to the next level. Or they can make an argument that, the council's dragging their heels, trying to drag me out, and just go right to the next level.
I mean, I know it was, kind of the essence to have this done, or I guess their anniversary and end up to postpone it.
That was the rush. They had some groundbreaking they wanted to do, I believe it was in this month. That's why they were pushing us to, get the resolution adopted and finalize everything.
This letter that was sent to the mayor and council is dated July the 9th, 2018. United States Postal Service priority mail to Daniel Buchanan, council president, and members of the borough council, and also to the borough clerk. That was on the 9th.
And there was a copy sent to Joan. Joan, did you get a copy for your file? So if anybody wants it, I can scan and email to everybody. Actually, I have already scanned and sent to the chairman just so we could talk about it. So if you want a copy, just let me know. I'll email it to everybody. Everyone looks like they want to. Yeah, I'll just do an email to everybody like I normally do, so you can have it. If you want a paper copy, I can print it out and bring it next meeting if you like.
Is there any clocks ticking as far as the resolution and when they need to act?
So
Are
actually,
they eating into some of their own time?
yeah, they are. And actually, that's another conversation the chairman and I had today. The ordinance, which, is it working, Joe? Okay. Our ordinance requires, and I put this language in the resolution because not every town has an ordinance like that. They're allowable. So our ordinance provides that you have 2 years from the notice of decision to either construct the variance that was granted. So for example, the application tonight, she has the variance for the lot coverage. She doesn't start constructing that addition within 2 years, then she loses the variance. She'd have to come back to the board for another variance. Or start all over. No, just start. It says commence. And then if it's a use variance like DeVita Kidney, they actually have to start using the use. So they would need to, they could build that space. Doesn't matter. They can start building that space, but they have to actually use it for the kidney care center within the 2-year period. Otherwise, they lose that variance and it would have to come back to the board. So they are working against their 2-year time frame. And since theirs is a use variance, they have to actually construct and start using it.
The temple
Yeah,
is used.
right. So yeah, they're,
The construct.
yeah, I would think that they would still be moving forward with finalizing their plans to comply with our resolution and going to all the outside agencies such as the county, if they have to go to DEP or whoever it may be, so they don't lose their time. But don't know the answer and don't know what they're doing. But that's what I would do.
Did they give any reason other than we don't want to pay, or did they have
The
specific
letter
reasons
says,
that might make sense?
well, it's very broad. So the letter says, the basis of the dispute is that the charges are excessive and unreasonable given the history of this applicant's prior efforts and pursuits development of the site, which has been previously documented. That's the only reason they give.
If my memory's right, a lot of it's because they didn't supply information that was requested.
Yeah, like I said, I'll email this to everybody. When you look through, especially Jay's bills, because it was a more site plan intensive application, a lot of it is, meeting, review plans that have been submitted, issue another letter because the plans were not, compliant with the last letter. So Jay does, as you see Jay's review letter. You guys need to give us more detail on this. You didn't have the proper detail on whatever it is, the fire hydrant location. And then they would submit another set of plans, and those things wouldn't have been done. And sometimes there would be other problems that were created that weren't in the first review. So it's not, in my opinion, I don't make the decision, it doesn't seem unreasonable or excessive at all. I've known Jay and I've known CME for years, 20-plus years. They do a good job, but they don't go overboard. I've never once seen them do anything that wasn't absolutely necessary for a project.
Not only that, it seems like it was in the temple's control to
Exactly.
reduce the amount that was spent.
Exactly.
Has this borough ever had an issue like this outside of this applicant?
I'm not sure. As you know, I haven't been there that long. Jay, do you remember anyone else?
I think a number of applicants have been concerned with the magnitude of fees that were generated by board's professionals, both the planning board and the zoning board. I think recently there was a variance that was granted, I think it might have been by this board, where the resident came to the council, and it was more about your former planner's fees, where it was discussed, but not to the extent where they wrote a formal letter made an appearance to the council, or are looking to make an appearance to the council and then to the Board of Appeals.
Can you recall how it was handled in the past? I mean, have fees been reduced?
I think that on this one I'm referring to, that Mr. Leoncavallo was involved with, I think that he voluntarily agreed to go through and reduce his fees to appease the applicant. I think that was the end of it. So it was just discussed informally with the council, not through a formal letter from an attorney. And I think the council asked Mr. Leoncavallo to meet with him, he met with him, and I think they worked something out. That was how that one was handled.
And to our attorney, does this happen quite a bit, or is this a rare instance?
I mean, here's, without sounding jaded, okay? The thing is, these applications, especially larger ones, end up being more expensive than the applicants always anticipate. So there's that issue in general. And it's always, as it's getting towards the end and the budget's getting whittled away, they come to the board, because most of these applications, they're in process for sometimes 2-3 years before the application's submitted. So there's a lot of fees, engineering fees, attorneys, planners, and stuff that are being laid out. So it gets here and then like, oh my God, one more fee, so they push back on it. Truth be known, the amount of fees that all of the professionals here generate, Jay, myself, the planner, in relation to the amount that they've paid their own professionals is a small percentage. So the fact that they complain always kind of rubs me a little wrong way. But you do hear it. You always hear, oh, your professionals charge too much as an hourly rate, or the total bill's too much, and they're billing a lot of stuff. But, it's usually, that's the reason for the complaint, not that there's anything meritorious about the complaint, in my experience.
You're talking about 16 vouchers. That's what's on the letter. 16 vouchers they're complaining about.
That, as Jay indicated, that's this letter. They've written other letters in the past for other, I don't know if those are inclusive or some of those are duplicate or not, but my feeling is, based upon informal discussion with Jay, there's probably more invoices that are challenged if you look at the history of this matter.
And do the professionals get paid regardless through the town? And hopefully we get our,
No.
if those folks don't pay that, then you don't get paid?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
So basically,
I think the way the ordinance is written, I think the borough does have an obligation to go through and pay and chase the applicant, but in most cases, the borough doesn't, and we try to resolve things with the applicant.
That's how we work it here.
so right now, you will not get your money on these vouchers until some settlement is reached.
That's correct, yes. Well, we haven't, this, like I said, goes back a couple of years, so.
That's all money.
Correct, we haven't received this payment because the fees aren't available with the borough. Same thing with your planners, they as well have not been paid.
Didn't know that.
The other thing, I would imagine the board is aware of this expiration of a variance. I brought this up today to Carl in regards to, do you remember we agreed and we approved the application for that modular home down at the corner of Furman Avenue and Journey Mill Road, and there's been no construction at least 2.5, 3 years. And I called the zoning office today and questioned that. How come nothing's been done? And I found out it's a water line situation that they have to work out with the borough. The same situation is developed with the application that we had down on Route 35, northbound with Stewart's. They came before us about 2 years ago with the used car lot and the car wash facility, or changing the oil situation, and that one there, again, is the same situation. They only have part of it done, and it's been over 2 years. I guess this variance here would apply in certain instances, and it's just that we approve these things, and then all of a sudden, we have nothing being done for 2-3 years. And maybe recommendation is we change the ordinance that they don't have all that time. I mean, if you go down in Morgan, it looks like an eyesore down there, the way that looks. And the same thing with Journey Mill Road and Furman Avenue.
So when you say the variance, what variance What are you referring to? Things being approved and not executed, or?
Yes.
Because you got a piece of paper there, I don't know what you're looking at.
The chairman's looking at the section of the ordinance that I referenced before about the 2 years to commence construction or
Yeah.
use the variance.
Oh, yeah, because the one on 35, it's just a shell now.
Exactly.
Could you explain that one more time? They have 2 years to complete the project or just
No,
start it?
to
Because the
start
source is, they're building, but it's not completed.
Right. They have, the way the ordinance is written, they have, if it's not a use variance, it's two different things. So if it's not a use of bulk variance, side yard setback, impervious coverage, they have 2 years to commence construction. So they gotta start constructing the building that they have the variance for. So unfortunately, that doesn't get them required to finish it, they just gotta start it. If they have a use variance, they have to start using it. So like I said, for example, DaVita, they may, do all the interior work for that, but not actually use it. If they don't actually operate it as the kidney care center, then they would use it. It's a use variance is use, and the other ones are dimensional, so that's why there's that difference there.
Is there a time limit on the building permit?
Building permits, the Uniform Construction Code, last I looked at it, does not have, and I know they were talking about putting a specific time frame in there. If there's no work on the site for a period of time, the construction code official has the right to send a notice, basically poking them, and then if they don't do anything, he has the right to pull the permits. All they would have to do is come back in and reapply for permits and start all over again. But, usually when someone gets the notice, they come in. And again, if it's an issue that, hey, we were doing the work, it turns out it's an old gas station, and no one knew there was a tank still buried there. The information said there wasn't. We've been delayed with DEP, and usually they get a break. But if it's just been sitting, the construction code official will usually take action to pull the permit.
There's a gas station on Arnston Road in Bordentown that they gave some land for the reconstruction, realignment of those roads, and
Speedway.
yeah, and they said they wanted to rebuild and just haven't. That's probably over 2 years.
Raceway, that's it.
Raceway, yeah.
And that was a use variance for it?
Don't know.
It was.
It's already there, so.
Right, so I don't know, because what I'm hearing is that this is on use variance.
No, that
No,
was
it's
the-
both,
that
it's use or
was.
bulk.
It was use variance and a site plan. There was a gas station there, but it was reconfigured as part of a new application. So that would have been considered a use variance.
Yeah, it could have.
Jay, did they have plans on coming, they did have plans on coming back, right?
When they came to the board, they indicated that, and even after, I think they addressed all their conditions of approval as well. But I'm not sure what happened with financial or
Yeah, they were a very good applicant. They did everything.
correct.
Are the tanks still in the ground there, or they take them out?
No, that was removed.
It just seems that some of these applications that we approve, they start the project and then it's not done. And it's an eyesore down on Route 35. I mean, it's halfway done. He ran out of money, he stopped. The modular home, it's been over 2.5 years, 3 years that we had that. And you go past that every day, there's got to be some kind of remedy that this board has or the construction office has to eliminate these kind of situations.
Well, the board, unfortunately, the board doesn't have any authority or ability to deal with those issues. Once the resolution's adopted, that's the end of it. There is enforcement mechanisms. So like I said, for example, if any of these issues come up, I didn't want to shut that conversation down because it's good information for everyone to know and understand. But if these issues come up, the best thing is to give Andy Mashansky a call. He'll look into it. If there's something that he can do as the zoning officer, if not, he can refer to the departments, whether it's the construction officials or if there's I'm not sure of all the Sayreville ordinances, but if there's a property maintenance ordinance, there may be an issue there for whoever's in charge of enforcing that, to send a notice and, then a municipal court summons. So there are some avenues to push the property owners to wake them up or take
At least
action.
find out what's going on.
Right.
You found out that there's a water issue going on there, and that's what's hanging them up.
Right, so there are mechanisms in the law that the town would enforce, not this board. But again, if there's an issue you see, the best thing to do is, Andy's probably gonna love me for volunteering, but he is a good point person. I've known
I'm
Andy.
gonna call him tomorrow.
Yeah, he's a good man, and he'll take a look at it, and again, put it in front of the right person if it's not
See
something.
what's going on 35.
Yeah,
No matter what you put there, it still doesn't look good. It's amazing.
The issue with Journey Mill, with the water pipe. So what happens if that just doesn't get resolved with the town? So since it's past the 2 years, the
Way past 2 years. They haven't done anything there. Zero. It's the same way it was when it came before this board. Nothing.
so according to ordinance, it's over the 2-year mark, so.
they'd have to come back to the board, and what they could simply do, and most boards that I've dealt with will entertain, unless there's been some dramatic change, they'll come back and just simply ask for an extension of time from the requirements of the ordinance, and they would say, we need, X period of time from today to do it. Do they need another 6 months, a year, whatever it may be? And, the board would, at that point, have the ability to say, okay, well, what's taking you so long? What's been the holdup? What's been the problem? And the board would consider the reasons in granting the extension. So if it's just basically, we didn't feel like doing anything, you're not gonna love that answer so much versus, hey, look, we've had this issue with the water line, and we've had, like the example I gave, we came across a buried underground storage tank we weren't aware of. And then you say, okay, yeah, that wasn't really anticipated. And they've been trying to resolve the issue. They didn't say, we found it, and threw their hands up. They've been trying to work it out, and it's just taken more time than expected. And more sports say, okay, you've been trying to proceed here in good faith, and we'll give you the extension. So,
Similar to when Quick Check asked for an extension.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I think Journey Mill's a little different. My understanding from Joan is that they actually attempted to go through it and get building permits.
Wow.
And I think also, because Journey Mill's a county road, they had issues with Middlesex County that they had to go through and resolve, so. I think they were attempting to move forward.
So he's trying.
He's trying, but it's been 3 years plus. I could probably put an application before the United States Supreme Court in less time than that. There is no more.
Yeah.
We're gonna cancel, we're gonna adjourn here and then go.
no, it's on the record.
Oh, it's on the record.
Yeah,
Okay, we're gonna go to room 310.
yeah, let's do it right here.
Right here?
Yeah. I got a
It's on the record?
I have a question while we're getting ready to do this. On that stormwater training that we did, there was a question I had, and I was hoping, Jay, maybe you could elaborate on it. It seemed that I perceived through that different ways of dealing with stormwater, but one of them is not a lawn. That's not necessarily as pervious as one would think, is it? Because it seemed that it was more open to like planting type areas and things of that nature, and not necessarily lawn.
Well, I think there was a portion where they talked about that a lawn is valuable because if you have water that flows across a lawn, it takes out some of the impurities rather than if it just flows right across a paved surface before it gets into the storm sewer.
But it doesn't necessarily go down into.
Correct, that's correct. That's something that's specifically designed to have the water percolate through, is what you're referring to. It's not just a grassed area, there's certain soils, just like there's a pavement that you can use that's pervious, that lets the water drain through it. Those are the type of things that were
Grass
encouraged.
doesn't always do that,
Correct.
but it does act as a filter.
It acts as a filter, yes. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
So the, no, we're,
That's gotta
public-
be on the
part of the public, yeah. You don't have to stay, just try to show how to turn that thing off, I'll take care of it for you.
Hey, Joe, put some air on.
No, it stays on the record. All right. Yeah, but you gotta keep the tape rolling. Yeah, so how do I turn it off? Just show me. And you can just pick it up in the morning. Just push that button right there on the left. Okay, you just pick up the tape in the morning, so you don't have to stay for this. Just hit record. Yeah, it stays on. Oh, who turns it? How do we turn off the camera? Yeah, is there anyone who can turn that off, or can you show someone how to turn it off?
I have to stay there.
Yeah, then turn the camera off, and as long as we have a recording, we're good. Because we're not required to do video, just audio. So, yeah, so Joan, I'll turn that off, just come grab the card out of there, waiting for yourself. Thank you. So, Chairman, as we were discussing, we're doing it, we call it in-service training. I'll send an attendance slide, let's call the start time at 8:15. So we'll just sign initial in, initial out. The purpose of this is one of the town's insurance coverages is through the Municipal Excess Liability Joint Insurance Fund, and they have created an insurance program that covers zoning and planning board members for any suits that may be made against the board and individual board members. And what they require is that we do this in-service training to go through some basics. A lot of these things, you know, I've only been here since the beginning of the year. We've had quite a few interesting applications.